Okay, start recording. Who's all here? Hi, good, okay. Let's see, start. Okay, let's see. Sorry about last week. It just, my voice is a lot better this week, so it was worthwhile to pause it. Let me just get the recording going. Got this on. Just make sure that your view okay. Yep. Okay, good. So hi, it's on to the next one. So today we're dealing with Mercury, and Mercury, it's very alive and it's a very strange planet to try and define. It's the planet supposedly of the mind and of communications and thinking. So we tend to think it's how we think. It's what we're going to think. It's a bit of a whole lot. It can be expressed in a lot of different ways. So it's not just I think like this or I think like that. It's Mercury is like an 88-day cycle. So we learn things in 88-day cycles. The 3-month cycles, classes are 3-month periods. They're rarely 4 months or 5 months. There's usually 3 months of break, because that's the speed that we learn or make sense of things from. So I guess we did the moon. So the moon is considered the lower mind. It's our memory, it's our moods, it's our feelings, it's our way of reflecting. And as we're reflecting, we're kind of thinking about what happened and thinking of what we used to be. So our thoughts can go into our moon and go into the past. But what the Mercury process is, it isn't about the past. It's about how you're being in the moment and how you're figuring out where you are and how you're navigating your life and how you process all the information coming to you through all your senses and your memories and your experiences and how you make relative sense out of it. So as a kid, 3 months old, the first thing you notice with Mercury, if your kid's mind is okay, you'll notice their hands start moving, they start moving their hands, and their toes, they start moving their hands and toes around, and it's for the mind to move the hands and toes, all the nerves, all the currents, all the muscles to just move a finger. That's a very sophisticated action. So when you start seeing that with in the 4th month, kids come alive. They have this communication. They start looking around instead of just being the blob. They start seeing things and interreacting a little bit more. This is the beginning of the waking up of the Mercury. And it's not till about the 3rd or 4th month that you can, if your kid's a little slower, if the kid's got coordination or mental difficulties, then you'll start to see it's slowing down, and it's not getting that coordination quite as fast. And then it requires a bit more attention to try and then alert systems come up and say, what do we have to deal with? You have to find out why and start working with it. So the Mercury cycles are the way to study Mercury. We'll get it. Well, they're fast cycles, so we go through every 3 months. We get 4 a year, 3 and a bit because Mercury goes retrograde and backs up. But when you're looking at timings, people make a big deal of Mercury retrograde. I don't think it needs to be made such a big deal in the natal chart. It'll show up. If it's a Mercury is retrograde in your natal chart, it'll show the implications of it will show up in your progressions when you get to that. But still, you're having to work with Mercury in the sign it's in, the house it's in, to understand the Mercury. So what the mind does, well, after the 3rd month, you've gone through 3 cycles of the moon, 3 cycles of moods, memories, feelings, feeling close to mom, feeling aloof from mom, going through all of those basic physical changes till it becomes almost an automatic instinct. Your habits and your instincts are set in that first 3 months, really in the 1st month, but over the first 3 months. But after 3 cycles going by, they become familiar. You begin to recognize this. If they put out the light, it means I'm going to be left alone. If I scream, then I can get attention. But you begin to remember the patterns of eating, sleeping, basic living patterns. That's the moon kicking in and being more established after 3 cycles. But the Mercury is watching this. The Mercury is taking the nutrition. So the moon's about your nutrition, your eating, your diet, the richness of the food you're eating, and how well it keeps you alive, how vitally alive you are and healthy you are. But the Mercury is looking at these, it tends to look at these patterns and try to make sense of it. So it tends to recognize patterns. So when the moon cycle repeats, it tends, oh, I've been here before. The feeling is I've been here before. The Mercury wakes up, well, when this happened before, it went from here, then it led to this, and it went to this. And so the memory works with the mind, but the mind is making sense of making associations to patterns. So it starts seeing sequels or sequences. And remember, if this sequence happens, then this 1, 2, 3 things happen, then these next couple of things happen. So it begins to kick in as your common sense or your intelligence of making sense of what's going on around you. This develops into being able to walk, stand up, walk, talk, be able to start talking and communicating. All of these factors are symptoms or phenomena associated with the developing mind. And so it's not just the organ of the mind, it's actually the nervous system, the coordination system, the networks connecting everything, and the awakeness to that. So as we're older, we see our mind, we can be, if we get tired, we're feeling tired, so we have a couple of cups of coffee, we get hyped up and we burn for a while, we get things done, we come home, we crash. We do this every couple of days, and after if you do that for a month of 5 or 6 coffees just to keep awake, at the end of the month, you can keep doing it, but it begins to start having a longer term effect on your health, and as your health gets affected, the alertness of your mind gets affected, and you're not thinking as well. Or you get into certain patterns that restrict other patterns, and it starts limiting how the mind functions. Now, so in the making sense out of things, in the recognizing patterns, mom's come into the room, she's going to take care of me. If she comes into the room, she turns on the light, gives me a hug. Okay, I can know, I recognize this. But if she comes in, puts me down, turns off the light, I'm going to go to bed, I'm going to be alone, I better go to sleep or not, or whatever. So all of these, the way we make sense out of it, that's the Mercury. And so in making sense of it, we're registering the past cycles, the past steps in the memories, and we're seeing it happen from here. So if I'm at this stage, it went from here, and then in the past it went like this. So we begin to predict in our mind or anticipate in our mind what's coming next. So Mercury, if this happens, then this will happen. If these things happen, then probably it's this. It develops a speculating nature of figuring out what things is. It's just a factor we all use so much. And then it becomes, Mercury makes up time. Instead of just feelings and impressions, it's seeing the connections to make up time. There was an old Greek saying that I like. It was saying that the whole universe is just in a cosmic flux. It's just a cosmic flux. There's no such thing as time. It's just space and flux. There's no time until someone starts counting. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or daylight, sunrise, noon, sunset, until we start counting and observing. Then we lock in time, and time is relative, generally to me. This is my time, I'm late, I'm hurried, I gotta get up, I gotta get here, I gotta think this, I've gotta go here, I gotta get this done, wake up, who am I gonna do today, what am I gonna do today? Our mind kicks in fast like that. But when it kicks in, sometimes it kicks in a really healthy way, but a lot of times it kicks in and there's distortions or poor nutrition or difficult thinking or negative thoughts or doubts that come in and start impeding how we think. So between a positive mind or a negative mind, it's a different take on the memories and on the cycles and the experiences that one is having. It's such an important factor in learning, in coordinating, in doing anything in life. I mean, As soon as our mind gets a little bit impaired by alcohol, by drugs, by sugar, by too much coffee, by whatever, it gets affected and it picks it up. And that effects come in. So there's a lot of people just going on super hyper fast mind. They're going so fast they can't take the time to see what's really going on, so they miss things. At the same time, if you're doing alcohol or drugs, you're over centralizing your mind and overwhelming it, and it's impeding your ability to see simply, or just to clear things and look at things as they are. And you tend to project way more or draw conclusions. You tend to, this relationship of us to our mind, of our hearts to our mind, of our being to our mind, it's such a fluctuating thing, but it becomes almost an automatic pilot. But when you start thinking the way we think, even our imagination and how creative we can think, or how unique we interpret things, or how clearly we see things, this is our Mercury. So everybody has their Mercury that's trying to see things and trying to perceive and make sense every minute. How could there ever be a boring moment? Because when things have been really activated, if it calms down, it's a different thing. It's a different frequency that's happening, and you have to tune into it. So, okay, needless to say, patterns get established by families, by homes, by eating, by sleeping, by what school we get, what teacher we have, by what sympathies we have or don't have. And the moon tends to feed the Mercury, and the Mercury is always trying to make sense of it. And every moment is feeding the moon. Every moment, all the sensations of any moment are feeding the moon. They're going into our memories. Everything before this moment is a memory now. So it's going into memory, and it's our mind that is going in to try and be alert to what's happening in the moment, to be quick in associating to what happened in the past and how it might be useful in the future. But also the Mercury can go and tap the memories. If the memories are healthy and the life is healthy, the mind can go back and remember almost anything. It can go back and be thinking about what something in the past meant. And if you have harsh or difficult experiences or difficult memories, you tend to block out the memories. The memories become an unreliable factor, or your past becomes unreliable. That has its cost in how well your mind works. Whew. So it's not so much the perception of others. It's mostly the seeing of all the sensations, inside, outside, and their relevance. The outside is how it relates to the inside, the past, how it might relate to the future, and what am I doing here now? What can I get away with, or what can I make happen in the moment? So even though we see Mercury as the process of thinking, of communicating, of expressing how we've made sense of the things and expressing it, really it's the principle of coordination, of coordinating nerves, coordinating ideas, making sense between things, weaving these webs of knowledge, of connections between things. But in the moment, like right at this moment, Mercury is your alertness, how alert you are. It's not what you're thinking. It's not necessarily what you're saying. How alert you are to every sensation, every thought, every feeling, everything that's happening within you and without you at this moment. Well, I mean, we're a little bit tired. We're just making it through the webinar. We're just, oh, gee, I'm glad I just got to grab a cup of coffee, sit here. Like, that's one thing. But, boy, how much do we absorb? How much do we hear? And how much do we retain of what we hear? So Mercury is always, whoa, it's like a water spider on the river of consciousness. It's always trying to make sense of things, but it's going so fast it can't hold all the depths all the time. You can see it at moments and express things at moments. But when you're meeting someone, how alert is someone? You could say the tiredness or sloppiness or not being alert is a factor of health and diet and the way you've been living. Yeah, it's that for sure. If you're not living right, if a kid hasn't had a good night's sleep and a good meal, how are they possibly going to learn to study in school? So kids in war zones are not going to be studying. Even if they're sitting in the school, they still got their fears, other things going, they're not going to be absorbing. Too much other things are going on. And they're not healthy enough to make sense other than what necessity is demanding.